Hey everyone, it's Ryan Hartwig. Today's Wednesday, October 20th, 2021. And today we're going to talk about some of the recent news, what's been going on with Facebook. As you know, on October 5th, Frances Haugen testified before the U.S. Senate in a hearing, and she basically argued for more censorship. She said that there needs to be more censorship, that Facebook's a threat to our democracy, which we're not a democracy, we're a republic. And she also said that Facebook needs to do more. They only delete about 5% of the violent content on their platform. So she was arguing for more censorship, and then the rules of the internet need to be changed. And Facebook agreed with that statement, that sentiment. And less than 10 days later, on October 14th, Facebook says, yes, we're going to expand our harassment policy. We're going to make changes to protect public figures. But this doesn't apply to the people on the hate figure list. So they mention here, silence. Where people are being harassed. There's efforts to silence journalists and activists. People like Laura Loomer, people like Tommy Robinson, people like Gavin McInnes. They're on the hate figure list, so that you can actually call for their death on Facebook, and that's allowed under the violence and incitement policy. They allow that. So. So we don't allow bullying and harassment, except, if they're on our hate figure list, and they've added a lot of people to that hate figure list. So there's people on that list that should not be there, who are activists, who are political activists, Laura Loomer, Tommy Robinson, Gavin McInnes, people who shouldn't be on that list. So they're allowing attacks against these people, death threats, and so that's the problem with these changes, is it doesn't protect people from, if you're have a certain political viewpoint. And that's what my book talks about, Behind the Mask of Facebook. I talk about those policies. I argue but that there needs to be actually less censorship, like that, or the internet needs to be free. There needs to be free speech on the internet. We can't just pick and choose who to censor. And so Frances Haugen's entire argument is the complete opposite of mine. Yes, I saw a lot of harmful content as a content moderator. Yes, it's bad, but my point is the answer to bad speech is more speech. She's a data scientist. She's saying that Congress, the company's done too little to address its responsibility for spreading harmful content. Too often chooses profit. Yeah, I mean they're a for-profit company. All right, they use their metrics, they track things, but they're focusing way too much on politics. Okay, we're going to protect the kids. Look, if you're a parent, don't give your kid a cell phone. Do that. Like, don't give your kid a cell phone until they're like 16 or whatever. Or maybe Facebook and Instagram can just shut down for 1 hour a day from 7 to 8 p.m. so that people can spend time with their kids and spend time with their family. So profits aren't bad. That's fine. If they want to make money, that's fine. But it's really not Facebook's role to police our public discourse. So a 12-year-old commented, "Go kill yourself" on Gomez's post. All right, great. So yeah, that person's parents, that kid's parents, should get involved. That's the problem with our society, where we're depending on the government and these private companies to make decisions about our lives. Facebook will bar content that degrades or sexualizes public figures. They already had that policy in place. They've had that in place for a while, and they actually made their policy more strict while I was there. So they expanded protections. So before, if you did a mention at Alyssa Milano, you could say a lot of things, and they made it more strict while you were there. And I think Frances Haugen, that's not Frances Haugen, by the way. That's the head of global safety policy. She's probably full of shit too. Anyways, Frances Haugen, she was arguing, she was the one in charge of the civic integrity department. She was, or one of the people on that department. So for the civic harassment queue. So they changed the entire queue leading up to the 2020 election that allowed them more information about the attacks towards these public figures. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about. They already did that. They already tightened up these restrictions before the 2020 election. So Frances Haugen's full of shit because she believes that Facebook should be in charge of protecting children. And I don't know if she's a mother, but she needs to protect her own children. That's what mothers and fathers are for, parents. They need to protect their children from the internet. And you're never going to make the internet safe. The internet's never going to be safe for children. So just let's get used to it. It's never gonna be clean. Like there's not a way to make it safe. So moving on, there's another video that came out on October 4th. Oh, I thought that was just, okay. I didn't see this video. This actually released the same day. Huh. That released the same day as her testimony was on the 5th. So the day after she went public with CBS News 60 Minutes on October 3rd, Patrick Bet-David did his interview. And I reached out to Patrick Bet-David, or he reached out to me like a year ago, and never got to interview with him. But yeah, this guy's legit. This whistleblower.
Before you,
let's watch a little bit of this. So Shawn Speagle. So I didn't know this guy. He was working for the same company as me, Cognizant, but he was working in Tampa, Florida. I was working in Phoenix. So let's just do a little analysis of his viewpoints. If you want to watch the good stuff, starting like the 46-minute mark, that's where they talk about his perspective on Alex Jones and Trump and whether or not they should have been banned. So basically, I'll go through some of the time frames. But yeah, this is a really graphic video. Like he describes in detail what he had to see. Now, he was a social media analyst. Now, I was a social media content moderator. He actually had more access than I did. I didn't know anybody at my facility that had the access that he had, because he said that he could go through all of the, he could actually dig through people's private messages and private groups, and nobody that I knew could do that. So that's very rare that they would give a third party that kind of access. But his whole point is they were reporting, they were reporting things. There's Shawn Speagle. They were, he was raising things up to Facebook, and they were not reporting it to law enforcement, like animal abuse, people being kidnapped, things like that. So yeah, the 45-20 mark, he talks about Alex Jones. They talks about Justice Kavanaugh, how when Kavanaugh, before he became a judge on the Supreme Court, he was being attacked, and there was the attacks against Christine Blasey Ford. And Shawn Speagle is asked about this, and he says there's crazies on both the left and the right, and like there were people on the left saying that conservative women should have their genitals mutilated, and yeah, so he was pretty fair. Like Shawn Speagle was pretty fair. He talked about both. Sorry guys, I had to cough just now, but here we'll continue with the program now. He talked about both sides, both the left and the right. Yeah, so, and how they were, they were basically the police of Facebook. Yeah, he talked about just these things are being reported, and he couldn't do anything. So Shawn Speagle's solution was that Zuckerberg has to step down. They should break up Facebook, divide it up into smaller companies that do different things. There should be some government influence, that Facebook is a public square, and they should revamp their policies. So if they do revamp them, that's great. Call me and him and some other former content moderators and have them, we can help them redo their policy. And I know a lot of people who had a better knowledge of Facebook's internal policies than I did. I have a pretty good understanding. We call it the Implementation Standards, IS. But, my supervisor, Sean Browder, who was featured in the Project Veritas release, he's very knowledgeable. So some of these people should be, testify or help Facebook redo their policies. But yeah, he talks about how you can make fun of, Shawn Speagle didn't like the fact that you could make fun of Dr. Blasey Ford for rape, which, but that was really never proven. So if you can't prove something was committed, then why would Facebook even consider that, right? And anyway, so it's a great interview, guys, if you want to watch the whole interview. But the main takeaway is, that the access that he would see horrible things and try to report it to law enforcement, and Facebook was kind of tying his hands and not letting him or they themselves were not reporting it to law enforcement, things that easily they could have reported to law enforcement. And he says it was to protect their brand. And so check this video out. It's pretty good with Shawn Speagle. I'm going to try to reach out to him, see if we can do an interview. And but yeah, so that's Shawn Speagle there. He worked as an online content moderator for 6 months in 2018. So I started in March of 2018, and I was there for just under 2 years. So I guess he didn't. Anyways, I just didn't like the job. It was tough on him mentally. But the one difference between his workplace and mine is he talks about this a lot, how it was a horrible place to work because there was no mental health support, no counselors. My experience was the complete opposite. So I feel like we had a lot of support. At the very least, the upper management at my location in Phoenix for Cognizant, they were on point as far as providing counselors. So I would talk to the counselors like all the time. And in my workplace, they weren't as strict with breaks. So we would get 50 minutes a week of extra breaks just for mental health. And so there were some differences between his experience and mine. It does take a toll on people, and a lot of people were young, like in their early 20s. So it is tough. But yeah, I feel like in Phoenix they did a better job to protect the employees. So and here's some other news. Just Zuckerberg to be added to Facebook privacy suit. So there's all kinds of like suits going on, lawsuits. They're trying to get him on a consumer protection lawsuit that would expose him to potential financial and other penalties. And then there's an organization called Social Media Freedom Foundation. It's not, let's see, Freedom Son of, also, anyways, with Jason Fick, there's the Social Media Freedom Foundation, jasonfick.com, jasonfick.medium.com. Jason Fick has a great lawsuit against Facebook right now. It's under the Fifth Amendment. And so basically, Jason's case went to the Supreme Court in January. Jason had 38 million followers, and he is now suing the government under the Fifth Amendment. So he's not suing Facebook, Twitter, or any of them. He's suing the government, United States government, under the Fifth Amendment for due process, because they're depriving people, and they deprived him of liberty and property because they chose not to hear his case in January. So this is a case you guys need to look at, and it's definitely important. So follow Jason Fick, check him out, and he's got some great information about Section 230, and basically explains why Facebook is breaking the law, and they're not following Section 230. But it's partly the fault. It's mainly the fault of the courts in California. And then guys, check out my website, ryanhartwig.org, and you can see all my recent interviews here. You can read my statement on Frances Haugen, and you can see some of my recent appearances here. So I was on Newsmax recently, and you can also donate and support me. So guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will, just let me know if you have any questions about big tech or Section 230. Comment below. Have a great day.